Welcome back to Pokemon episode summaries. Today, I'll be doing episode 309, Now That Flower Power. The episode begins with Ash and the gang just getting off Tommy's boat from last episode, so that they could finally arrive at the beach that led to Slateport City. And soon enough, they came to the Slateport City Pokemon Center, where they saw that practice for the upcoming contest was already in full swing, as a whole bunch of trainers were preparing their Pokemon for the contest, including a trainer with their Mudkip, a trainer with their Butterfree, a trainer with their Poochyena, a trainer with their Zigzagoon, a trainer with their Shroomish, and a trainer with their Kecleon, which disappeared as soon as the trainer flicked his fingers. So basically, the Kecleon was able to disappear on command. May walked in right when this happened, and she was very impressed by this, along with all of the other performances that she could currently see going on. Brock was impressed by all of this as well, and told May that she would have a lot of competition during the contest, and May admitted that, while that was true, she wasn't very concerned, even when she admitted that she hadn't even begun to train for the contest at all yet. Ash asked when she planned to start training, and then, with May stating that she would get to it right now, stating that she didn't feel like training earlier because the contest was too far away, but now there was 2 weeks until the contest, so she felt like it was close enough to actually begin. Upon hearing that the contest was in 2 weeks, Ash got a little annoyed, as that meant it would at least be over 2 weeks until his third gym battle. As for Max, he was annoyed that May didn't start training earlier, stating that she shouldn't have waited until 2 weeks before, but May still thought it was enough, and simply just debated what she was going to practice first. And also, what Pokemon she would train with first, Beautyfly or Torchic, because she planned to use them both. So, May decided to go to the beach to train, deciding that it would be the perfect place because of all the nice weather, so her Beautyfly would probably really like it. Brock had no objections going to the beach, because that meant he could stare at all the beautiful women in bikinis that were relaxing there. May then decides to start off her training by practicing a combo, where she did a dance move and her Beautyfly did a move. So she began spinning around in circles as she sent out her Beautyfly. And while Beautyfly comes out of its Pokeball, it was already using Stun Spore to provide a beautiful sight of the Stun Spore raining down. Suddenly, May stops spinning, and Ash asks what the fuck she was doing and when she was going to resume her training, when she just turns around and she looked like she was about to pass out, as she complains about how her being hit by Beautyfly's Stun Spore wasn't as graceful as she was hoping. Basically, she hoped to have the Stun Spore be a beautiful move that Beautyfly could use in the contest, but she realized that it was now about to knock her out because she just got sprayed with it, and this happened as she collapsed to the ground, making Ash, Max, and Brock fall to the ground in embarrassment at May's stupidity. Once she recovers, she gets up and tries to spin again, but she ends up spinning so much that she gets dizzy and falls over again. She finally gets up a third time and decides to practice something different. Specifically, she tries to get Beautyfly to practice its Gust attack as she throws some frisbees at Beautyfly and tells it to use Gust to blow them back. It obliges, making the frisbees float, but the gust also sweeps up a whole bunch of sand on the beach, causing a huge sandstorm. Soon enough, the sandstorm sweeps up May, Max, Brock, Ash, all the people on the beach, and the beach furniture, and they're eventually all tossed out of the little sand tornado, as everyone, especially the regular beach people, complain about being covered in sand, and Max especially complained about this as well, since he was literally trapped in the sand, and he had to break out, and told May that using Gust on the beach probably wasn't a good idea, at least in an area where there were a lot of people that could potentially get mad at them for covering them in sand. May agreed, so they went to a part of the beach that didn't have any other people on it, so that no one would be at risk for May's training, as Max questioned May what she planned to train aside from Gust, leading May to admit that she was going to train Silverwind, since the judges loved it during Janet's contest, and she wanted to get the same results. So May has Beautyfly use Silverwind, and it obliges. Though the attack doesn't work in full, because May's Beautyfly didn't actually know Silverwind, so it couldn't even get the move off, displeasing May as she slumped to the ground, depressed, complaining that she was obviously going to need to practice Silverwind a lot more, because it would be absolutely necessary, since the move would earn them a lot of credit from the judges, just like it had Janet. Ash agrees that May needed more practice, but states that May should practice her Gust more by throwing the frisbees again, since maybe if Beautyfly was able to improve its Gust, it would therefore be able to learn Silverwind, since Silverwind was basically just a more advanced Gust in a way. So May agreed with this, and threw 3 frisbees. After wishing her Beautyfly good luck, and ordering it to use Gust, which it does, gently blowing the frisbees away, and not creating a sandstorm. Yay! As the frisbees float in the air, May manages to do her spin move for real this time without getting dizzy, as she gracefully catches 2 of the frisbees, exciting Max that she was actually doing well. But then the third frisbee goes right over her head, and Ash and the gang then turn around to direct their attention to it and see that it was heading straight for a boy that happened to be watching the training from the boardwalk by the beach. Ash and the gang were panicking because they thought the frisbee was gonna hit the boy, but the boy managed to catch the frisbee with no problem whatsoever, even twirling it on his finger like basketball players did with their basketballs. Having watched the shitty practice, the boy makes fun of May, stating that she wasn't a good potential coordinator, and taunts that she wouldn't get respect from the judges with a cheesy performance like that, making May mad, although she only gets more mad as the boy then throws the frisbee he caught at her feet, jumping in a fancy way while doing so, claiming that that's how May should be throwing the frisbees, not the way she was doing it, taunting that it looked terrible the way she was doing it, which just pissed her off even more, to the point where she demanded the boy's name, introducing herself as May. The boy introduces himself as Drew, and says that he was also a coordinator, and admits that May needed a lot of goddamn practice, since he thought her and her Beautyfly didn't have any style whatsoever. May becomes extremely angry at Drew for this, as she lunges towards him to try and attack him, but Drew just puts up his hand to hold her back, solely by the face. It's then that Ash, Brock, and Max approach and ask what the fuck was going on, since they heard May's yelling. Drew simply ignored them, as he continued to insult May and her Pokemon, stating that her Beautifly was second-rate and there was no way it could win, which just enraged May even more, as she tried to run at him again, stating that Drew should not have insulted her Pokemon. But Drew just ignores her, as he continues to hold her back with his hand, even as May continues to run despite this. Drew is too strong, I guess. Ash then jumps in to support May, echoing the same words that she did, warning him not to insult May's Pokemon. But Drew just ignores this comment again, as he plays with his hair and laughs, telling Ash and the gang that children like them shouldn't be this close to his resort, explaining that he plans on competing in the contest as well, being a coordinator, and he was staying at a luxury hotel on a resort, not the cramped Pokemon Center in Slateport. May didn't hear any of this, as she was too focused on trying to run at Drew and break through his hand. The rest of Ash and the gang knew that getting through to Drew would likely be impossible, so they simply turned around to leave him and told May to come with, but May was too determined to break through Drew, and states her belief that Drew was entering the Pokemon contest, making Drew laugh, calling her a brilliant genius, sarcastically, stating that he already fucking said that. May just shrugs off Drew's insult, and states that because of Drew participating in the contest, they would be able to settle their feud there, and she taunted him that she would prove herself better than him at the contest and prove that Drew was all talk. The two of them simply glare at each other rudely, as James and Meowth were spying on Ash and the gang and Drew, when Wobbuffet suddenly popped out. Hearing Wobbuffet reminded them of Jessie, and they both asked each other if they knew where Jessie had went, and neither of them knew, when suddenly they heard her voice. So they turn around to see Jessie, hearing the voice behind them, and they see not only Jessie, but also her Dustox, as she was instructing it on certain attacks. Jessie never trained with any of her Pokemon, so James asked what the fuck she was doing, leading Jessie to explain that she was training her Dustox for the upcoming Slateport contest, because she planned to enter. James and Meowth went pale in shock upon hearing this, since, they thought that Dustox was super ugly, so it wouldn't do very well in the contest, but Jessie stated, very passionately with fire in her eyes, that Dustox did in fact have the grace to win, and with Dustox's grace combined with its interesting move combinations, combined with Jessie's individual beauty, Jessie had a winning formula for the contest. James and Meowth thought that Jessie shouldn't waste her time on contests, and instead just focus on, their usual business of catching Pokemon, but Jessie retorted that she didn't want to let her own beauty, or Dustox's beauty, go to waste. Jessie tries to prove that her Dustox and their attacks were beautiful, as she commands Dustox to use Poison Sting, and the poison barbs actually hit the ground in an extremely beautiful way, which impresses Jessie, as she teases James and Meowth that she was right and they were wrong. Her Dustox was fucking graceful. However, when Jessie then tells her Dustox to use Poison Sting more rapidly, the Poison Stings began to go haywire, and it ended up almost hitting Team Rocket. And it was beginning to, so Team Rocket, including Wobbuffet, ran the fuck away, although Wobbuffet was unfortunately a victim to the Poison Sting, as multiple poison barbs stuck into it. Meanwhile, while Team Rocket was screaming and running, Ash had decided to help May out by helping her Beautifly perform attacks back better by challenging it to a practice battle. Brock was going to be the ref, so he declared that it would be a one-on-one practice battle, and Ash sent out his Tailo, and May, of course, her Beautifly, and she immediately had her Beautifly use Silver Wind, combined with a fast tackle. So, Beautifly spread the silver powder around as it flew towards Tailo, gracefully twirling and spreading more silver powder as it went. But Tailo was able to dodge and then go in for a peck combined with a quick attack. May didn't panic though, as she simply told the Beautifly to dodge by twirling out of the way, and it did so, and then fired off a string shot to trap Tailo inside, leading Ash to order Tailo to use Tackle to try and break out of the string shot, causing May to panic, knowing that Tailo would be able to do this quickly. So she quickly comes up with a plan of her own, and tells Beautifly to use Gust, causing Tailo to fall to the ground before it could break out, and it fell to the ground hard. So May jumped up happily, thinking that her and her Beautifly had actually beat Ash, but Tailo wasn't done as it got back up. This was followed by Ash ordering Tailo to try freeing itself not with a tackle, but by biting the string, and it does so, making May worried as she wondered what to do, since Tailo was very close to being free. She decided on using a Silver Wind to stop Tailo from breaking out, but just like before, the Silver Wind failed because Beautifly didn't know it properly, so this allowed Tailo to bite through the net fully and fly into the air to use Wing Attack on Beautifly extremely hard, to the point where it starts to fall down, leading May to hurriedly rush to it to catch it as Tailo lands on Ash's arm, and he congratulates it on the good job, since Ash had clearly won the battle, which Brock officially declared. May was more concerned about Beautifly's safety than her losing the match, as she caught it just in time and made sure it was okay, leading Beautifly to confirm this by happily flying up. Just then, a man approaches and starts clapping extremely loudly, as he says that contest battle was extremely fucking amazing, leading May to thank the man, although much to May's confusion and annoyance, the man walks right past her, and it's instead revealed that these compliments and clapping were directed toward Ash and his Tailo, as he goes on to state that Tailo battled so elegantly that he would like to see it participate in a whole bunch of Pokemon contests, admitting that they had a whole bunch of potential in them. However, May clarifies that she was actually the one entering the contest, not Ash. The man apologizes for his mistake, laughing embarrassingly, and assures her that he thought she did well as well. just a little nervous, but he informs her that he was nervous during his first contest as well, and before it, so it was entirely normal. Upon hearing this, May questioned if the guy was a coordinator as well, and the guy confirmed this, introducing himself as Mr. Big, stating that he'd been participating in Pokemon contests for quite some time, and he was actually a leading expert in them, and he may be able to help May out. Ash and the gang then introduced themselves, and upon hearing that Mr. Big was a person who was an expert in contests, Max became impressed and asked how many ribbons Mr. Big had, leading Mr. Big to proudly reveal that he had 3 ribbons, which amazed May, as she practically went starry-eyed, almost losing herself in amazement, begging for Mr. Big to tell her any secrets or tips to winning contests. Excitedly going up into his face, leading Mr. Big to get a bit annoyed and push her away, reminding her that one of the first steps of being a successful coordinator was staying calm, not being rambunctious and hyper like she was right now. Otherwise, the Pokemon would feel nervous and fail to unleash their full potential with their attacks. Once May calms down a bit, though, Mr. Big does give May the advice she wanted, telling her that the secret to winning contests was in berries. Also adding that he grows many berries for Pokemon contests, and he'd be happy to help out a rookie like May in acquiring some of them. While this conversation was going on, in a corner, Ash had sent out his Corphish Trico, and Brock had sent out his Fortress Lotad Mudkip, and May had sent out her Torchic, and they were all happily sleeping, when suddenly, May's Torchic woke up, due to its snoring causing a bubble in its mouth, which popped, which alerted it, waking it up. Anyways, upon waking up, it sees a building nearby and was curious as to what it was, so it goes to investigate, and it hurriedly rushes inside the building once it smells something really good when it got close enough. Anyways, back with Ash and the gang and Mr. Big, May and Max were wondering how berries were so crucial to winning contests. So they listened intently as Mr. Big explained that the Pokemon eating certain berries made them look better, and that would therefore help them in contests. Though clarifies that the berries would be most helpful if they were mixed together into a substance called a Pokeblock that helped raise a Pokemon's condition, making it either more cool, more beautiful, more cute, more clever, or more tough. And those were most of the factors that a contest judge was looking at. Basically, berries had to be mixed together to make Pokeblocks. Max was able to identify an item that Mr. Big then pulled out of his pocket, which was a Pokeblock case, realizing this because he saw the name Pokeblock labeled on it. Wow, you're really smart, Max. Anyways, Mr. Big explained that this Pokeblock case was used to store Pokeblocks. Whoa, no shit. And he also added that, from experience, he would advise every Pokemon coordinator to have one, because it would just help you out so much to be able to store Pokeblocks, so you could use them when you had to. May was intrigued by all this Pokeblock stuff, and wished that she could have a Pokeblock case of her own, so that she could store some, but she didn't. Thankfully, though, much to her joy, Mr. Big actually gifted May the Pokeblock case that he pulled out, saying that he wanted her to have it. May eagerly examined the Pokeblock case in detail, and Mr. Big invited May and the rest of the gang to his shop so that she could buy berries to make Pokeblocks of her own, assuring her that he had plenty of very interesting berries that she could use to make not just your standard Pokeblocks. May eagerly decides to go, as the rest of the gang follow. Meanwhile, as for Team Rocket, they were spying from some bushes, and Jessie realized that she would likely need a Pokeblock case as well to enter the contest, or at least to do good in it, I guess. And this led me off to suggest that they should steal Maze and steal whatever berries Mr. Big had, and Jessie was intrigued by this, and her and James agreed to go through with this plan, as James thought that even though he was bored by contests, he wasn't bored by stealing, so yeah, he was down for this. So Team Rocket followed Ash and the gang and Mr. Big as they made it to his shop. Just outside the shop, Mr. Big then explained to Ash and the gang that not only were berries used for Pokeblocks, but you could also use berries to make spectacular Pokemon fireworks, which was what he was doing. Now, I'm sure you're confused as to how berries can create fireworks, and that's understandable, but don't question it. Maybe he just, made the firework designs with berry juice or something, and then fired them up, who knows. Anyways, he admits that these fireworks were designed with faces of Pokemon in mind, so when they exploded in the sky, you would see several Pokemon faces. But he was having trouble because he couldn't decide what color combination to use for the fireworks, and also added that some colors didn't seem to work very well with certain other ones, so it was hard to come up with a decision. Did he want to go with one sole color that looked really good, or did he want to try and do multiple colors but risk them not blending well? Further adding that he was stressed out because he had to make a decision on the color by tonight, since he was performing at something called the Carnival of Seven Nights. Ash and the gang were intrigued by what this was, so they listened as Mr. Big explained that it took place on a small mini-island just off of Slateport City's beach. May was intrigued by the concept of a fireworks show, and definitely wanted to go, leading Mr. Big to state that if he was able to figure out what color he wanted to use, he would definitely take Ash and the gang to the carnival later, but right now, they had to focus on May making some Pokeblocks. Just then, right as they were about to enter the shop, though, they all noticed Torchic standing just outside the door with its back turned to May. May wondered what the fuck her Torchic was doing here, and asked what it was doing, which caught his attention as it turned around, leading May to see that Torchic's beak was now covered in purple shit, covering its entire face, as it happily looked up at May, not realizing that it had done something terribly wrong, as Mr. Big went insane, explaining that the weird shit on Torchic's face was actually berry juice, so Torchic must have got into some of his berries. This was confirmed to be the case because the building that Torchic had went to investigate happened to be Mr. Big's storeroom, where he kept his berries, and when Ash and the gang and Mr. Big went inside the storeroom, Mr. Big found an empty box covered in purple berry juice, causing him to sigh, revealing that the berries that were in this box were his freshly picked blackberries, and now Torchic had eaten them all. Brock had never heard of blackberries before, so he read about them in his guidebook, which apparently had information on them, and read that blackberries stained anyone's mouth purple, although they were meant to make a Pokemon's coat extra shiny, which Mr. Big confirmed. And gets depressed, explaining that he was going to give a whole bunch of berries to May so that she could use them to make Pokeblocks, but now he didn't have any for himself to produce any more fireworks either. Explaining that he used blackberries to overall enhance the fireworks, not for a specific color, but just because they made the fireworks shine more. Since they made more than Pokemon shine, they made the fireworks shine as well. Essentially, he wanted to mix the blackberries with other berries to add a shine. May apologizes on her Torchic's behavior on his behalf and tries to get Torchic to apologize as well. But Mr. Big wasn't even listening to any of the apologies, as he didn't care about getting an apology. He just wanted to get some more blackberries for the carnival tonight, but they were pretty rare in the area, so he feared that he wouldn't be able to find them. Upon hearing this, May just got even more mad at Torchic for what it did, and got mad because it wouldn't apologize, so she began to shove Torchic's face into the ground angrily, but thankfully, Mr. Big saw this, and assured May that he didn't want her to take her anger out on her Torchic, explaining that, really, it was his fault, because he left the storeroom door open. He should have closed it up. May remains adamant, though, that Torchic was at fault. And seeing how distraught May was, Ash proposed that maybe May could do something to make it up for Mr. Big, and upon hearing this, May realized that Ash had a good idea, and stated that she was gonna find some more blackberries for Mr. Big so that he could use them for his fireworks, as well as so that she can make Pokeblocks for herself. Mr. Big reminded her that the berries would be super hard to find since they were so rare, but May remained determined to find some anyways, leading Mr. Big to admire May's determination and thank her for her efforts as he officially let her go. Meanwhile, Team Rocket had followed Ash and the gang to the shop just as they had promised, so they overheard the conversation, and Jessie got excited, exclaiming that she could get some berries for herself if she just followed Ash and the gang to them, because basically Ash and the gang would just lead her straight to the berries. James and Meowth were excited to get the berries as well, particularly Meowth, as he suggested that Jessie should only take some of the berries, and most of them should instead go to Giovanni, so that Giovanni could use them to make his hair shinier. And we then see boss fantasy that Meowth had of him imagining Giovanni shining his hair and also drinking some blackberry juice. James initially cheered, agreeing with Meowth's suggestion, thinking that he would get a promotion if he made Giovanni happy, but he soon takes away his agreement when he realizes that once Giovanni drank the blackberry juice, his mouth would be stained black, so therefore Giovanni wouldn't like Team Rocket, and he would potentially fire them, although Meowth brushed this off, stating that Giovanni would probably prefer having shinier hair, even if that meant that he would have to have a stained mouth. This whole argument between Meowth and James on whether or not to give the berries to Giovanni was quickly ended anyways, as Jessie simply stated that she would be using all the berries for her Dustox only, so that Dustox can shine immensely. James was fine with this, and although Meowth wanted to argue, he was soon cut off by Wobbuffet forcibly popping out of its Pokeball. And since Jessie, James, and Meowth were all annoyed by Wobbuffet, they all joined forces, putting aside any arguments by mocking Wobbuffet by doing his signature pose he did when he popped out. Meanwhile, Ash and the gang had now searched up to go looking for the blackberries, with May sending out her Beautyfly to help search. However, no one was able to find any blackberries, and they soon reunited to inform each other of their mutual bad luck. Just then, Ash noticed that Torchic wasn't with May anymore, and he didn't remember her recalling it, so he questioned her where it was, leading May to realize that Torchic was gone. She didn't even realize, but she immediately started panicking and called for it into the woods, as Ash, Brock, and Max did the same. Believe it or not, Torchic actually responds, as Ash and the gang heard a chirp in the distance, so they ran off towards it, and they soon found Torchic standing on the edge of a cliff, looking up at a blackberry tree, with a single blackberry on it. Before May could go up to it, Torchic appeared determined as it rushed up the side of the cliff, chirping loudly to hype itself up as it tried to jump onto the berry tree, although it only made it halfway up the cliff before toppling back down. It tried again, but the same thing happened, although on the third try, it was able to use its beak to bounce off of the cliff and hang onto a tree branch on the tree, biting onto it. May congratulates Torchic on doing this, and instructs it to retrieve the berry, although before it can do this, the branch snaps and Torchic begins falling down, though thankfully May has her Beautyfly use String Shot to catch Torchic, and then deliver it straight to May, as May hugs it, happy to have it back, and that it wasn't injured when it got lost or anything like that. However, May realizes that Torchic didn't have the berry with it, and she then sees who did, being none other than Drew, as he was standing on a rock next to the cliff, having caught the branch that had the berry on it when it fell. Drew taunts May, sarcastically stating that her Beautyfly's String Shot had some real beauty to it, and May got mad at Drew's sarcastic comment, also getting mad at how Drew had the berry, asking what the fuck he even wanted with it, and demanding that he give it back, since the berry rightfully belonged to Torchic, since it was trying to grab it. Drew simply laughed at May's desperation, stating that he would only give the berries back if May was able to beat him with her Beautyfly. May, desperate to get the berries back, agreed, hoping that her Beautyfly could teach Drew a goddamn lesson. Meanwhile, as for Team Rocket, they were spying on the scene from some bushes, and came up with the idea to steal the blackberry while everyone was distracted from the battle. so they thought that May and Drew would both tire themselves out, as would their Pokemon. So it would give Team Rocket the opportunity to grab it. Anyways, Brock decided to be the referee and declared that it was time for the battle to begin, leading May to do her fancy spin move as she sent out her Beautyfly, and Drew sent out his Pokemon, a Roselia, which, since Ash had never seen before, scanned it with his Pokedex. Both Roselia and Beautyfly came out gracefully, as Beautyfly unleashed a Stun Spore powder to shower itself with the powder to make itself glisten, while Roselia used a Spore and danced around before landing. With both of the Pokemon having shown off, Drew offered May the first move, confident that he could win. And May decided to take Drew's offer of the first move, stating that he'd be making a mistake as she ordered Beautyfly to use Tackle, combined with another Stun Spore to make itself more beautiful in the powder. However, Roselia used Petal Dance to hit Beautyfly first, stopping it from approaching with its Tackle. Roselia then uses a Stun Spore straight on Beautyfly's face, and this didn't glisten up Beautyfly, no, it instead almost knocked it out as it went flying to the ground. Because, even though the Stun Spore was beautiful, he didn't want to breathe it in straight in the face. Drew laughed upon Beautyfly collapsing, stating that he expected much more of a fight from May's Beautyfly. He thought it was bad, but not that fucking bad. With Beautyfly down, Drew orders his Roselia to finish it off with a magical leaf, leading May to plead for her Beautyfly to fly back up. It slowly began to open its eyes, although by this point, Roselia was charging up its magical leaf, ready to fire it off. May was panicking, leading Ash and Max to remind her of Mr. Big's advice to always remain calm, stating that if she wasn't going to remain calm, then she might as well just forfeit the battle right then and there. As Roselia launches the magical leaf, May hears Mr. Big's advice echo in her head as she quickly gains determination, not panicking anymore, as she orders her Beautyfly to use Silver Wind, not worried about the fact that it might not be able to get it off. She was confident that Beautyfly could, and it managed to, being able to fly back up and use the Silver Wind to deflect the magical leaves back at Roselia, knocking it down to the ground, leading May to jump for joy, immensely happy that her Beautyfly had finally performed Silver Wind successfully. As for Drew, he was so shocked he couldn't even say anything, or even tell Roselia to get back up. So, with Roselia staying down, Brock was about to declare that the match was over when suddenly he noticed the Blackberry being pulled away on a fishing rod. And eventually, they all see the fishing rod be pulled up to none other than Team Rocket's Meowth Balloon by James, as Team Rocket then does their motto, almost falling off in the process as they were standing on the Meowth Balloon as opposed to being inside the basket. And they then taunt May, bragging about how they were going to be able to create Pokeblocks with the berries, and she wouldn't. May had gotten angry at this, obviously, as she started yelling at Team Rocket, demanding them to give back the berries, but Team Rocket had already began floating away in their balloon, happily, leading Ash, Brock, and Max to go chasing after the balloon. May follows, but not before officially telling Drew that the match was fucking done, and that she didn't have enough time for a rematch, as at least one of them needed the berry to fight over, at least. So basically, they couldn't even think of having a rematch, since the berry wasn't at stake. Drew merely just watched as May ran off, not even changing his expression whatsoever. May soon catches up to the rest of the gang, and they continue chasing Team Rocket as they laugh, not thinking that Ash and the gang were behind them. However, they soon realize that they were, as Ash had Pikachu use Thunderbolt. However, Pikachu's Thunderbolt was merely absorbed by a special satellite Meowth had implemented in the Meowth Balloon, as Meowth laughed, exclaiming that electric attacks could now not affect the Meowth Balloon, thanks to his engineering. Ash thought there would be a way to break through, so he told Pikachu to use Thunderbolt again, but sure enough, it didn't work. Just then, though, a solar beam was fired, and it destroyed the satellite under the Meowth Balloon. Ash and the gang were confused where the solar beam came from, only to see that Drew had chased after them and had come to assist with his Roselia. Ash and the gang realizing this, as Drew smiled friendly. Then, Ash and Drew team up, with Ash having Pikachu use another Thunderbolt, and Drew having his Roselia use another Solar Beam, and since the Thunderbolt was able to hit the Meowth Balloon, since the satellite was destroyed, both attacks combined were enough to explode the Meowth Balloon and send Team Rocket blasting off, also causing them to drop the Blackberry. Ash and the gang and Drew then watched the berry fall, and they all tried to go get it, although Torchic was too fast, as it rushed toward the branch that the berry was still attached to, and it jumped high in the air to grab it. Torchic was immensely happy with itself for being able to do this, although it soon realized that when it had jumped over a cliff and was now falling down. Thankfully, though, May had her Beautyfly take action, as she had it use a String Shot to capture Torchic in a little suspension web, and then Beautyfly retrieves Torchic and brings it back to May's arms, as May hugs it and retrieves the berry from Torchic, as Torchic still had the branch with the berry in its mouth. With Torchic and the berry safe, May turns her attention to Drew to thank him for his help with getting the berry back, though suggests that they save their rematch for the actual contest, so that their rematch could be even more epic. Drew agreed to this, admitting that he couldn't wait to battle her at the contest, admitting that, although he still had his doubts that May could even make it past the preliminary rounds, he hoped that if she did, then they would face each other, stating that he would for sure make it past the preliminary rounds. May was kind of pissed off by this, but Drew then admitted that, even though he didn't think that May would make it past the preliminaries, she did surprise him today. So that meant that Drew at least had a little bit of respect for May now. Drew then recalls his Roselia and heads off as he gives May a quick salute, solidifying the fact that he did respect her as a battler at least a tiny bit. And this made May even more determined to prove to Drew that he should respect her as a battler. As Drew walks off, May watches, telling herself in her head that she was going to beat Drew no matter what. Ash and the gang then return to Mr. Big and give him some of the berry juice from the berry so that he can finish off his fireworks, as he had decided on the main color that he wanted to use. So, later that night, Ash and the gang and Mr. Big head over to the carnival site, where Mr. Big fires off his fireworks. As Ash and the gang, along with Brock's Mudkip, Ash's Trico, and May's Torchic, watch, in addition to the carnival committee member who set up the whole carnival. Even Drew and his Roselia watch from the boardwalk as Mr. Big states that any moment now his fireworks would appear in the air, and they did, leaving Ash and the gang and Drew and his Roselia and Torchic, Mudkip, and Pikachu and the committee member and Trico amazed to see patterns of Pikachu, Torchic, Mudkip, and Trico as the designs, indicating that Mr. Big must have been inspired to make some last-minute fireworks based on Ash and the gang's Pokemon. May was particularly inspired upon seeing these fireworks, declaring that she was now ready for her first Pokemon contest.